What's up, guys? Thanks for clicking over to the next video. This video we're going to go over the things I wish I knew before I got quail. And if you are just finding this video, thanks for clicking. Let's get right into this. I'm Mike, this is MJ Farmstead, and we grow our own food here. At least we're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. We're going to get right into this video. So I wish I knew how much water these birds actually drank. When I have my setup here for about 18 quail, I'm usually going through 2 to 4 liters per day replenishing this. So I usually fill them up in the morning for my morning chores. Afternoon chores, I come and fill it up again. On really hot days, I could possibly fill up to 6 quarts. It's rare, but it does happen. Normal is like 2 to 4 quarts a day for 18 birds. So they drink a lot of water. That's something to take into consideration, especially if you live in a climate where it will freeze. So the feeders that I use, I also use the same style, but it's filled with water in the wintertime. You have to worry about it cracking. So normally when you have a brand new one of these, you could fill this up with water, come out here once it's frozen up, give it a little tug on the sides, pop that ice cube out and refill it. I normally fill it 2 to 3 times a day in the winter if it's freezing. Usually you can get away with it if you live in like a more mild climate where you can only fill it once a day and the quail will keep that ice broken up. But if not, that's definitely something to consider, is the waters in the wintertime and how much water they consume in the summertime. For these little birds, they can get hot quick, and you think that they're fish with how much water they drink. Number 2 thing that I wish I'd known is how messy of eaters they are. They tend to waste a lot of food. They'll pick out little things that they do not like and they'll throw it and toss it and decide, oh, I'm going to eat this. Nope, drop it. It goes right through that screen bottom board that we have there and right into the manure tray. And then from there, unfortunately, it's going to be done. And there's really not much you could do about that. It goes into your compost. So if you are composting and you care about organic, make sure that you're getting an organic feed. I know it can be a little bit more pricey, especially if you get crumble. You can always opt to crumble it yourself, but sitting there with a 40-pound bag, depending on how many quail you have, could take a little bit in a blender. And also, you're going to burn your blenders up, so make sure you get the cheap ones from Walmart. Something walking around in the bushes. What is it? So one thing I wish I knew before getting quail is how interesting it is to crack their eggs. We do have quail scissors now, but in the beginning, first egg we tried cracking and it just cracked everywhere. So the shells, they're brittle, but they're also very strong and they have a strong membrane. So the best way that I found is taking, if you don't have a quail scissors, taking a butter knife and using the serrated edge. And let me show you here. So you basically, let's just pretend that the non-sharp edge is it. So you're going to put it right here on the egg. I'm trying to see what I'm doing. And you're going to basically use the serrated edge of a butter knife and peel it back, and you're going to cut into that egg and then flip the top over. I like to dump them into a mug. I usually do 3 of these eggs for the equivalent of 1 chicken egg. This egg is actually cracked, so toss it to the predator gods. But anyway, so about 3 eggs for quail eggs to 1 chicken egg equivalent, and they're packed full of protein. They're high cholesterol, but it's good cholesterol. It's an HDL, high density lipoprotein, so it's just going to lower the bad cholesterol. Do your research, guys. They are packed full of nutrients. They are considered a superfood, and they're super, super tasty. I also wish that I knew quail lived for just 2 years and become ticking time bombs after that. They literally could lay for those full 2 years. You could light them, because if they're only going to lay for 2 years anyhow, you want to get as many eggs as you can from them. I know with chickens, I tend to not give my chickens artificial light, just because they will lay for 4 to 6 years depending on the heritage breed that you have. But with these guys, if they're going to kick the bucket after 2 years, you might as well get every egg out of them before they do. It's just something that you might want to know about before you get them. Just makes it a little bit more productive and more bang for your buck, so to say. Now, if we're talking as far as territorial goes, that's another thing I wish I knew before I got quail. If you put new males into an existing flock, or any new birds into an existing flock, without having equal amount of birds, so let's say flock A is 10 birds, and you wanted to incorporate 5 birds from flock B, more than likely they are going to beat up most of those birds, and it's not going to be good. What they do is called scalping or braining. Basically, they rip open the tops of the heads, and I've seen it so bad that they have actually ripped into the esophagus of a bird, and as the bird was eating and drinking, it was just coming right out of their neck. Unfortunately, I had to cull that bird, and that's never fun for anybody, especially when you know that bird could have been a viable layer for at least 2 years to come. So the next thing that I wasn't aware of is how fragile the chicks actually are. When you're hatching, you're usually looking, anything above 50% hatch rate is good. I tend to get around 58 to 65, 70% hatch rate most times, especially during like peak season when the light is at its max, my birds are young. So the chicks, when they're day old to about 4 days old, are the most fragile. They will tend to try to kill themselves, unfortunately. They say quail are always looking for new ways to die. It's absolutely true. I've had them just drop on me. I've had them get crushed in feeders, so I have my feeders set up a specific way. Instead of having that jar on top for the round feeders, I just fill up the bottom portion of it and put a cap on the top of it and call it a day. But I've had batches do extremely well where I have about 98% survival rate, and then I've had batches do really poorly where I've had 4 out of 20 birds survive. Honestly, it's just luck of the draw, I think. I have hatched from older birds, and they tend to do a little bit less good on the survival rate for their chicks. I don't know if it's just me or what, because every time I'm cleaning my incubators, I'm using a vinegar solution to disinfect everything. I use a vinegar, well, battery just died there. So I was saying, I usually am always cleaning my incubators, and I'm cleaning my brooder sections. That's one extra thing that you're going to need, guys, that you really might not think about when you're getting into raising your own meat and eggs, is you're going to need a brooder setup if you plan on hatching these chicks out yourselves. With that, it's just a little bit extra room. You could really do it in a fish tank if you had a small batch of birds. What I like to do is I have a 4 foot by 2 foot section, a wooden tank that I used to keep lizards in. I keep them in there, and you're going to need a brooder plate or a heat lamp and keep them warm for the first 2 to 3 weeks. Quail grow quite quickly, and they're usually feathered out in that time and don't need the heat after that, unless it's super cold and it's winter time. Then you'd want to keep them sheltered away from the wind until they're fully feathered, around 4 to 6 weeks old. I think that's really all I have for you guys. Now, if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to grow the channel. You become part of the crew, and you get to ask questions and follow along on our journey of self-sufficiency. Guys, hit me up in the comments. If you guys have questions or concerns, or you're already growing quail, let me know you're part of the quail crew. And if you guys want to know how I make some money back on my quail, I'm going to put that video somewhere over here on the screen. So wherever you guys are at, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.